everybody, how's it going? Welcome to today's installment of Mike's Vehicle Vlogs. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Boy, we've got one to talk about today, huh? A lot of you who have been following this channel for, well, as long as I've had it at this point, you guys know how, I have been, in love with the automobile, ever since I was a child. And as a child, as growing up into my teenage years, I have definitely started to pay more attention to cars, and this also just includes a lot of new cars that were coming out around the time of me going into my actual teenage years, 12, 13 years old. And it was around 99 and 2000. I turned 13 in the year 2000, and 2000, between 1999 and 2000, there were so many new cars that were actually getting ready, that pretty much got the green light for production to be released as either a 2000 or 2001 model. And one way for me to keep tabs of all of these new cars is, buying actual magazines. I I bought them all. I have a handful of just about every car magazine that was out there that focused more so on the average production vehicle. So I never really collected hot rod magazines. I never collected the magazines where it was just a bunch of modifications done to cars. I wanted the real, consumer type, magazine. So Car and Driver was always my number one favorite, followed by Motor Trend, and then Automotive. So I bought these magazines as a kid, and each, month, like Car and Driver, I actually had a subscription for. I had a subscription for Car and Driver from the time that I was 13 up until I was 16, and then from there on out, I would just randomly buy them off the shelves. But, I have all of my Car and Driver magazines from this time period, and I also have a few of the Automobile and Motor Trend magazines. And, especially when you have a subscription to the magazines, you can't wait to see what's going to be on the cover, because like I said, there were so many cars that were being introduced during, between 99 and 2000 that were just exciting to see, So every month I'd get a magazine, and I just couldn't wait to see it. Like April of 2000, the Chevy H8 or SSR. That was an awesome one. I couldn't wait to actually see, the testing and stuff done with that. And then, of course, July of 2000, Ford introduced the Escape, the first-gen Escape for '01, and, the Aztec obviously got the green light for production, so journalists were actually getting their hands on these cars, and it was exciting, In August of 2000, we have, a Z06 Vet. This is where I got a lot of interest in cars that were up and coming. That's where I've got a lot of interest in the cars that I thought maybe one day it would be, fun or interesting to own. And what other car did I see, in all of these magazines, that was getting the green light for production that I couldn't wait to see in person? Well, one that I don't think I ever really mentioned before, but I think the first time I ever saw it was on the cover of this automobile magazine. This was June of '99, and it was what would be the 2001 Chrysler PT Cruiser. Now, in 1999, I am pretty sure that the PT Cruiser was still in its somewhat concept car stage when Automobile did the article on this. Even in some of the pictures, I'm pretty sure some of the stuff in the pictures of the interior and stuff did not make it to production. There were obviously changes made. The PT Cruiser was definitely a car, between the ages of 12 and 13 for me anyway. It was definitely a car that I could not wait to see in person. And it was definitely a car that I could not wait to read about in the upcoming issues of the, either Automobile or Car and Driver magazines. And sure enough, in June of 2000, that's when Car and Driver finally got their hands on the PT Cruiser, which at that point was, I'm pretty sure, getting ready to go into production for real, and everybody started, dealerships and Chrysler in general just started taking orders for the 2001 model year. So everybody knows what the PT Cruiser is. I think there are a lot of people nowadays who frown upon the PT Cruiser. It has obviously been well over 20 years since the PT Cruiser has, been on the streets. And in most cases, we know now how they aged. Pretty much just like any other Chrysler product. But, however, as I've stated before, not only was I intrigued with a lot of the GM vehicles from the late 90s and early 2000s, hence the Grand Am, the 5th gen Grand Am, and the Aztec, of course, but also, I think Chrysler, honestly, still had a very strong vehicle lineup. Not just with Chrysler in general, but Plymouth was still around, and Dodge had an awesome vehicle lineup. And let's not forget Jeep. I mean, the 2nd gen Grand Cherokee was just then hitting the streets also. And there was just something about the Chrysler vehicles from that later time period, from the mid to late 90s and early 2000s, where I just liked the way the Chryslers, how they looked. The way that they looked on the inside also, not just the outside, of them looked pretty cool in my opinion, but like the interior, like just the fit and finish of the interior in most of them, I thought, they still looked like they still had, cushy padding on the dashboards and stuff, and they just looked really nice, And then it was in the mid 2000s where once they started redesigning their vehicles, that's when everything started to look really blocky, and everything started to look really cheap on the inside, and everything was hard plastic everywhere, and that's kind of, obviously the start of the downfall of, pre-bankruptcy, Chrysler Corporation. So this was a nice time, I think, for Chrysler. And one of the last cars to come out of that time period was that PT Cruiser. So the PT Cruiser, obviously, was basically, it was almost like the Dodge Neon in a way. It was built, I think, off of a similar platform. The engine, I think, it may have been the same engine, or it may have been built off of that same engine, but, I mean, it was a 2.4 liter dual overhead cam 4-cylinder that they put into the PT Cruiser. And I think a lot of, other parts and stuff other than what, looks like signature PT Cruiser parts, a lot of, I think, other stuff came from, obviously, other Chrysler vehicles. But I just thought that they were so cool looking. It was at a time also when car companies were, we obviously had all of these, bizarre looking concept cars that were actually making it into production. And it was nice to see fresh faces and stuff at the time. Hence the Aztec. Now, even though the Aztec didn't get its concept version, actually put into production, it was still pretty close, and I've always been happy with it. I do not remember what the concept PT looks like, but I'm pretty sure it was not too far off from what made it into production, and it was just so cool. I miss those times. I miss being that kid, who was looking forward to, getting these magazines every month and seeing something brand new like this, and just thinking, that's the future, And nowadays, as much as I love all these new cars still, and what's coming out, it's not the same. It's not the same, and obviously everything changes in time as we get older, and I think that's something that just kind of gets lost, But seeing these magazines and just talking about my interest for that car just does bring back that nostalgic feeling and excitement of seeing something new, and something exciting, getting ready to see on the streets and such. It was in production from the 2001 model year up until 2010. And to be quite honest, I did not realize for a very long time that PT Cruiser was actually in production for as long as it was. I was thinking it was axed off way before 2010. It was a pretty cool car. I mean, it was designed to look much like the classic hot rods, from many, many, many of yesteryears. And I thought, that they had actually pulled it off quite well. It was also somewhat of a versatile vehicle, so, all the seats, even the front passenger seat, you could fold them down and carry longer cargo items in there. It had an adjustable rear floor, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, also. And there were just a lot of unique things about that car that I just thought, at the time, and even today, I still think, would be pretty cool to have. That 2.4 liter 4-cylinder put out 150 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque, which at the time, I think 150 horsepower coming from, a 4-cylinder of that size really wasn't all too bad in my opinion. I have never personally driven a PT Cruiser, but I will say it was a car, like I said, that I've thought about having, and even to this day, I still think, when I think about when it's time to get rid of those, would I be brave enough to actually go for a PT Cruiser nowadays? I've done the Facebook Marketplace search in the area, and I've looked up a couple of other places to see if I can find a PT Cruiser for a pretty reasonable price. And let me tell you, around here, for one, most of the original ones are gone. So I really don't want to have a PT Cruiser from 2006 and up, because about halfway through its life, Chrysler did do a refresh on the styling. They refreshed the interior, and again, that's when everything really started to kind of look cheap in the world of Chrysler. And I would much rather have a, definitely the first few years of the PT Cruiser where it was still original and still, kind of fresh off the block. Those, in my opinion, were the best PT Cruisers. I don't really care for them too much afterwards. I would much rather have anything from 01 to 05. But I don't think I'm ever going to get one. I really don't think. I don't think I could find one if I wanted to. Now I know there's other options. I could probably try to outsource it from, another state, some place that doesn't get as much salt and such like we do here in Ohio. But I still would not want to pay to have a car brought here. Something that's that old, and I don't know. It just gets me wondering if it would even be worth it. But I'm not gonna lie. I still would like to have one. I still think they would be kind of fun. Like I said, I've never actually gotten to drive it, so I don't know how they actually handle on the road and such. I've always kind of imagined just looking at them though. I could imagine them being Pretty fun to drive though. I think that's what the look and such at least we're going for, but I don't know. I don't know if it lives up to that. But I would love to get behind the wheel of one and actually take it out and see, what it would be like. So along with all of these car and driver snippets and stuff that I had posted on the screen, I actually did get to look at a brand new PT Cruiser when it was brand new, and it was all because a friend of my mom's had actually been she was obsessed with getting one of them when they first came out, and I found this out, and of course I got excited because she actually placed an order for a brand new PT Cruiser not too long after Chrysler started taking orders for them. And if I recall, I actually think I had a newspaper article from when they first started selling the PT Cruiser, but I think I had an article about Chrysler actually not being able to handle all of the demand for everybody, all the orders that were coming in for this car, and production was actually kind of tough because everybody wanted to get their hands on one. So she was one of the first ones to put an order in to get a brand new PT Cruiser, and I don't think she got it until 2001. It was months and months and months, and I think she got it finally like in either late winter or early spring of 2001. So after some time of her owning it, I finally was able to ask her if I can come and shoot the video of it, and I did. So I went over to her house, and she let me kind of do my little walkarounds that I used to do back in the day, which really was far from any kind of professional level. But I think a lot of it was because I was just kind of nervous, and I just kind of wanted to get in and get out, get in, do my thing real quick, and then just get out. I don't know why, but that's just kind of how I always was. And so seeing the car in person for the first time was very exciting. I remember thinking to myself, they actually are a little bit bigger in person than I would have imagined in the magazines, but still, they probably to me nowadays seem a little smaller now that I'm like an adult-sized person and not like 13 anymore. So it was a very nice one. I think hers was a limited edition, so hers had the leather seats with, I think it was like the suede inserts. She did have an automatic transmission. I don't remember what the color was, but it was the purple, and I just remember, she loved that car, and she had it for years, and then at some point, she did upgrade to a second PT Cruiser, and I don't remember if it was after the facelift or if it was still before, but she ordered a black PT Cruiser with orange flames, which for some reason makes me think it might have been the turbocharged version, because like the one article that I had here does show the PT Cruiser GT turbo, and it has the flames on it, so I'm assuming maybe she upgraded to a GT PT Cruiser, which I have no video or anything of. I didn't actually get to see that one. I did, however, get to do a back lot car video one time, and there was an '02 PT Cruiser back there. So we did take a tour of that, and it really wasn't in too bad of shape, minus the fact that it sounded like it had no exhaust at all, so it was pretty loud. And the dashboard, that's a pretty common Chrysler thing there, where you have the plastic of the dash cracking and caving in, so there's probably no older PT Cruisers out there that have a dashboard that's completely intact on top. But nonetheless, I still think that that the one that was there at the dealership really wasn't in too bad a shape, and it was going to the auction. It was in a car that we were going to resell at that point. Had too many issues. The exhaust alone, it probably had the cat chopped off or something. So they probably weren't investing into that. But it was nice, and even back then, got me thinking what it would have been like to have one of these.
All right, here we go. Oh, it's got no gas. Well, it's got enough gas. Oh, no exhaust. Wow, she loud. Back windows don't work unless... Nope, back windows don't work. So just the front ones. And they were both automatic down. Air conditioning. Whew, the exhaust is potent. The radio does work, the display does not. This was, that might have been just a single disc changer. Oop. Cubby hole, cup holders, shifter. Goes in the gear pretty good. More space down there. Small glove box with no manual. Oh, compass and outside temperature. Yeah. Surprisingly enough, this is staying up. The floor. The 2.4 liter 4-cylinder with specially designed intake, as you can tell, for the PT Cruiser. I see some leakage running around the valve covers. Boy, I'd hate to work on this car. There is no room at all.
One piece of literature that I wish I did have is I remember when we had we got the new digital cable back in the day, and we got all these channels that we didn't have on regular cable, and I want to say it was like the Speed channel or something, but Chrysler had like an actual infomercial type thing on this channel that was running, and it kind of showed snippets of like the actual car and driver test, because the Car and Driver used to have a TV show also, and it kind of showed the test subject of what I'm pretty sure may have been that exact PT Cruiser there from the June issue of 2000, and they used it on this like infomercial type thing, and of course there was a thing at the end where it was like, if you're interested in getting literature or brochure on the PT Cruiser, then send call this number or something like that. And I had my mom do it for me. I wanted to get this thing, so I remember getting this brochure in the mail weeks later, and I mean it was like almost like a book, if I can remember correctly, and it was just this really in-depth brochure on the first generation PT Cruiser, and I don't know where it's at. I have not seen it in years, and I'm actually kind of surprised that it's not with any of the stuff, any of my other car literature, but there was also so much other literature that I had from other cars that has gone missing over the years, and unfortunately that might have been one of them also, but I may actually try to find another one on eBay or something, to see if I can find it, just to kind of put back in with all of my literature. But yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, when it comes time, I don't know what I want to do with the two cars that are out there, because I know eventually one or both of them are going to end up leaving, and Not necessarily because I want to get rid of them. It could be because, one of them is broken beyond repair or something. But, I've definitely thought about going back into getting, an SUV. I'm still thinking about the Aztec, definitely have not given up on the Aztec for sure. I still look for those around here, from time to time. And the listings for those are very, very slim in this area. I mean, when I bought the Aztec 5 years ago, they were all over the place, on Craigslist and on Facebook Marketplace. 5 years later, I'm not seeing so many of them. So I know for a fact, and I've said it 5 years ago too, that those are becoming rare, and they are definitely proving, that's definitely getting proven to be true, 5 years later. So I think it's going to be the same way with these. Now, like I said, even though they were in production a lot longer than the Aztec, I could still get, an 09, 10, all the newer ones, but finding the earlier PT Cruisers are becoming just as rare around here, at least, in one piece and such. But I don't know what I want to do yet, and this may very well be something for me to consider if I can find the right one. I don't know, but I do get excited, thinking that maybe one day I'll have one of these, because I still like them, and I know a lot of people who say I'm stupid because of that. But it's got to be an original designed PT Cruiser, not the facelifted one. It may never happen. I don't know. I never thought I'd have one Aztec, let alone two, in my lifetime. We just never know. But yeah. So that's pretty much my story. The PT Cruiser, and the fact that I still would like to have one. I still would like to have one. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. But I think that they were awesome, especially for the time period. It was like one of those you had to be there type things, I guess. When that car was introduced, I just got so excited. Much like, the Aztec and stuff like that was a good year. That was a good year for cars. 2001 brought a lot of interesting cars into the new millennium. The Aztec, the PT Cruiser, the new Escape. There were just so many of them that I was excited to. And these magazines, as mentioned, were like, these were my gateway. This isn't even all of them, guys. Like I said, I've got years behind me sitting on the floor. Years and years of Car and Driver magazines. So, that's it. That's all I've got for today, guys. Leave me your thoughts and comments on what you guys thought of the PT Cruiser. List them down below. So like, comment, subscribe, and that's all I've got. I will see you guys next time. I want to thank you for joining me today, and take care.